What's up, guys? I am so happy to be here on the first week of our new series, Like Me. All right, so thank you for joining us, and I look forward to seeing you guys a little bit later in the Zoom call. But let's go ahead and get started. Don't you hate it when things are unfair? I mean, for example, when you've studied for hours and hours and hours for this new history test coming up, and you've got it, and you get it, and you are so happy with your grade, and then you realize that your friend got a B because they asked someone else who already took the test, and they didn't spend but about 2 minutes studying. That's unfair. All right. Or when your sister, who never cleans her room, who never does any of the chores around the house, never does anything, always gets what she wants, when you're the one who does all the work and everything else, and it seems like you never get to pick anything or get anything you want, that is totally unfair. Or this is one that might be coming for some of you guys later. Maybe you're the one who has to take care of the car, put gas in it, and do all those things when your younger sibling comes in, drives it, makes a mess, uses your gas to go hang out with their friends, when then you have to go and put more gas in with your money so you could do something, like drive them around. And it just seems totally unfair. Maybe, and this is one of those, you see the athletes get up out of class to go to whatever game or whatever it is, or practice or whatever they're doing. And you realize that means that they get extra time to study while you have to sit there and listen, and you don't get the extra handout. You have to make notes yourself and whatever. And it's just not fair that they get to miss class while you're stuck there listening to the teacher. All right? Unfair. Totally unfair. We can keep going. And this happens all the time when I'm scrolling through Instagram. All right? I can count, I can't count the number of times I've been having a great day and I'm looking through and I'm like, yeah. And then I see someone else's post and I see what they're doing. And I'm like, dude, that would be cool. Maybe you see someone who went to your favorite vacation spot and you're like, weren't they just there last week? Or how do they afford to go to Disney again? Or they got to go to that concert and I didn't. Or every one of them seems to be super talented at whatever they want to do. They can sing beautifully. They can play music. They're good at sports. While me here, I'm struggling and practicing extra just to barely make it by. Or that person looks great, or their weight loss is great, or their skin is perfect while I'm just shy of 40 and have a zit. I don't understand this, but whatever. It's just one of those things. They're all put together and I'm just barely trying to make it. All right. He got the newest, or her life is so much better because she has that. You know what I'm talking about? All right. We get in that, and it's just weird how our life can go from feeling good. And then about 10 seconds later, after seeing that, we're just disappointed and I'm angry now. All right. Nope. That's just not fair. All right. So, and you know this already. In addition to feeling miserable, when we do this, we start to assume that they have the perfect life. And, because we look at what they put online and then match it up to what we know about ourselves and our current reality. And then what do? Right? We realize we'll say their life looks better. They look better. We recognize that we start to see this reality that we look at is their life is greater than my life. We feel less than, like we are not as important. And it's typically when we respond in one of the couple of following ways. One thing we tend to do is we start to overachieve. All right, we're like, I'm going to be better, and we see everyone else's perfect life, so I must have the perfect life too. So I will do everything in my power to make a life perfect, no matter who I have to squash along the way. All right. And another thing that we do sometimes is we do nothing. We get apathetic. Maybe we see we watch their lives and go, oh, there's nothing I can do. I can never be as good as they are. I'm just going to sit here and just be Eeyore about it, okay? And then there's another thing that we'll tend to do is we play it over and over and over and over and over again in our minds. That's where, anxiety and sadness and jealousy come in. or that we just see all the things that they have. We want to make our post look better, but theirs looks better, and we can't even figure out how to make the right filter go on or whatever. We're unable to do anything else because all we're doing is thinking about how their life is better. No matter how we respond, the result is the same. It feels bad. All right? That's what comparison does. That's what it's going to do every time. But here's the tricky thing about comparing our life to someone else's. We know ourselves too well, okay? We know and live the good, the bad, the happy, the sad. We know the places like social media that everything is designed to display the highlights of our life, okay? That's what they've posted too, the good stuff. They didn't post everything. That's why that's what we do too. We go on there and we post the good things that's going on in our lives. We don't post that we got in a fight with our girlfriend, at least not on our real Instagram. But we post a picture of ourselves that we have filtered and tweaked and taken 30 different photos and changed the angle and changed the lighting and done all these things. I know you guys have done it, all right? Or we go to make a comment and we rewrite it like 30 times to make sure it's actually funny and it's perfect and the thing. Admit it, we've all totally done that, all right? We've all perfected the art of projecting the life that we want others to think we have, even if it doesn't match what we actually have. I love to go and look at like Instagram fails. My favorite is a guy laying in the middle of a yard next to a cornfield, and he's bought a bag of play sand and put a seashell on it and posted like he's at the beach. And it looks like he's in the middle of Idaho. He's not at the beach, but that's what it is. His brother's like taking a picture, go ha ha, Instagram real life, whatever. But we've perfected those things. And here's the crazy thing. We make sure that we have the perfect picture, but we forget that everyone else is doing the same thing too. They are filtering as much, if not more, than we are. Okay, and that's fine. That's what we do. But we need to realize that their picture may be just as fake as yours. All right. They're posting the highlights and the filtered highlights of the best of their life. You're not seeing the whole story. So when you compare their best, the filtered best of their best, to your whole story, you can see how that comparison is not going to add up. Let me say it another way. When we compare ourselves to others, especially on social media, we believe things about ourselves based upon someone else's half-truth or fully fake display. Comparison has become such a norm in our culture that we don't even realize that we're doing it. It's just something that just happens. We're not trying to. It's just happening. The good news is that we're going to talk about for the next few minutes will not only help us recognize when we're doing it, but it will also help us understand what to do about it. In a world full of social media and bias and comparison everywhere we look, it may seem totally unrealistic to just filter it all out. But hang with me. I think you might be surprised at what truly is possible. Okay? So, one of the greatest teachers and followers of Jesus that ever lived is this guy named Paul. He made it his mission to share Jesus Christ and what Jesus Christ has done for his life and he can do for their lives with everybody he met. And he didn't just stay in town. He went out there to everywhere in the known world to share what Jesus has done in his life. Paul traveled from town to town in order to maintain these relationships with people and offer life-changing advice. But when Paul wasn't able to be present, he wrote letters, okay? He wrote letters to different churches, different people, and he made a point to write these letters to stay connected. That's basically their version of Instagram or Facebook or Twitter, but was those letters to stay connected to those people. In these letters, Paul was known to be really direct, okay? He was passionate about following Jesus and leading others to do the same thing. While everything Paul did was out of love, it's likely that some people didn't really like it, okay? Some people didn't like the tea that they were being served. But they weren't measuring up to what Paul was saying, And when they did that, they responded like some of us do. They lashed out. Okay, I know y'all have never done that. When someone gives you the tea that you're not ready for, you don't lash out and say, well, they're stupid. No, it doesn't. No. But they began to tear Paul down. Their strategy to feel better about themselves was to make him look worse. In a word, they were petty. Okay, y'all have never done that, so I don't have to worry about that. But I mean, I have, but I'm not proud of it. But it happens. So listen to how Paul responds to these criticisms. Okay. And pay attention. This is great. All right. 2 Corinthians 10, verse 12, and this is the New Living Translation. Oh, don't worry. We wouldn't dare say that we are as wonderful as these other men who tell you how important they are. But they are only comparing themselves with each other, using themselves as the standard of measurement. How ignorant. Okay. Little did we realize that sarcasm has been an amazing tool for such a long time, all right? Paul basically clapped back at him, all right, which is wonderful. It's what you don't realize it, like, oh, snap. It's one of those moments. He wasn't messing around in this passage. He's addressing that comparison that's going on among people and the struggle that it created. Paul is saying in no uncertain terms that it is absolutely, positively ridiculous to let your behavior in life be based upon a comparison to someone else's behavior in life. And it's even more ridiculous to spend time figuring out how to measure up to people, just like you, in order to make yourself feel and look better. Now, if we were to sum it up, Paul's saying, hey, look, comparison to any other human to another human is ignorant. All right, it makes you both look silly. Now, we've all heard, that there's someone who has more than you and there's someone who has less than you. All right, when my parents would say that to me, it's not so that I feel one way towards the person above me or one way to the person below me. It's so that I realize there's always going to be a spectrum, but what's important is that I compare myself to me and look at me and how I'm progressing, not comparing myself to others and how I justify myself to them. All right? It's just never going to add up right when you're comparing yourself to someone else. All right? There's a principle found in the book of Proverbs, and Proverbs is a great book for just some really hardcore truth. Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. Proverbs 4:23. So, Solomon, wisest man ever, who wrote this principle, is passionate about how important it was to guard your hearts. Why? Because what we do almost always comes from it. So out of the heart we speak, out of the heart we act. All right. So we need to guard what goes into it. Okay. So we guard our hearts. The opposite, one of the quickest ways to destroy our hearts is by comparison. If we see a post of how great someone else's life is and we allow it to just fester in there and come in to mess with us, what we begin to believe, and it changes that, we're starting to get into danger of messing our heart up. It makes us feel less than. It makes us feel worth less. It's like an attack on our heart that can ultimately mess with our whole lives. So that's why we have to get this right. Don't compare your worth with their posts. Don't compare your worth with their post. Don't look at someone else and assume that their life is perfect. It's not. And conclude that your life is no good because of the information you have of them. Because in that moment, your life doesn't look like theirs. Their life has mess in it too, just like yours. They just didn't post it, so you don't know about it. Don't make a decision about how you look or don't look based upon someone else's picture. Remember, that picture has been filtered, has been tweaked, has been changed, has been taken 30,000 times. Like my favorite is the picture with women with their hair perfect, their makeup done right, and their head's on a pillow, but their hair's not really touching the pillow because that would mess it up, saying, woke up like this. No, you didn't. No one believes you. No one believes you. And yes, we can see that how that wall curves when you Photoshop it. You might want to get better at it. But so we understand, all right? So your picture of your life is unfiltered. So don't compare yourself to their filter. Don't make decision based on your worth, based upon what you see or perceive in other people. All right, which sounds great, but how do we actually do it? How do we accomplish this? How do we fight the temptation to compare ourselves and let comparison rule over our lives? How do we guard our heart, like Solomon suggested? All right, so let's go with the word guard. Let's set some boundaries. All right, that's what a guard does. He sets boundaries. You can't do this. You can't go here. That's what a guard does. So we need to do that with our heart. Okay. We need to make sure that something doesn't mess up what we've got. So what are we guarding? Guard your Instagram. Pay attention to how it affects you. Guard your Snapchat. What are you putting on there? Who are you talking to? Guard your TikTok. They're stealing your data. Guard your scroll. When you're scrolling through, looking at things, making sure you're not stopping on things you shouldn't do. Guard your thoughts when you're watching the likes roll in, all right, or not roll in fast enough. All right, are you basing your worth on how quickly or not quickly you get those likes? Guard your comments. All right, should you say this? All right, think about it. Guard who you follow, because who you follow matters. Okay, as someone who's a little bit ahead of you, if I'm as someone who used to hire people, okay? So when someone would apply for a job, I would look at their Facebook or their social media and say, who do they like? What are they doing? What are they into? Because that gives me an inkling of what this person is going to be like. So what are your likes? Are you following the right things? Guard yourself when you interact with others who make you feel less, okay? Guard your heart when you're interacting with others who make you feel less. That's in social media and in person. Guard who you spend time with, who constantly complains about their own life. Okay, so if someone is a negative Nancy, don't just say I'm gonna spend all my time with them. No, because it's gonna rub off. You're gonna start feeling negative about yourself. So guard your heart. In other words, when you find yourself in a situation, whether it's in social media or in real life, where you are more likely to compare yourself to others, you need to be on guard. Pay attention. Something is trying to get to your heart, and you need to set a boundary there. So much of this can be tough to notice in the moment, right? When we're in that situation. But that's what being on guard means. That's what it can do. We pay attention to what you do when you feel yourself starting in that comparison game. You feel yourself going down that rabbit hole. Maybe you find yourself overachieving, striving for the attention of others, or maybe you find yourself feeling so deflated that you wonder, why do I even try? Or maybe you find yourself playing those images or those words over and over again in your mind. When those things happen, pay attention. All right, that's kind of a red flag going on. Something's messing up. That's your clue that you're stuck in this comparison game. So when that happens, I want you to ask yourself these questions. What things are fueling how I feel? Why am I feeling this way? What is the thing that's making me feel this way? What are some things I want to do because of how I feel? What are the things that it's making me want to do? What or who am I comparing myself to that's bringing up these feelings? And when we ask these questions, all of a sudden we can take a deeper look and go, really? That's what I'm letting bother me? I'm over it. All right. And then you realize, oh, yeah, I can see how they photoshopped the fire out of that picture. All right. We guard our hearts by paying attention to what we feel when we're tempted to play the comparison game. This may seem like a really big task, but that's why we're going that's why we're going to talk about this here in a little bit with small groups, because we need to look at see what it's like in your life and how it impacts your life specifically. Okay, so how do we get out of the comparison game? You aren't the only one who struggles with this. We all do. I wish I could tell you that when you turned 18 or graduated that this just stopped. No, but it continues to go on. But living a life where you feel less than doesn't have to define how you feel, okay? It certainly doesn't need to define your worth. Remember, don't compare your worth to their post. What would it look like if we really started to begin to guard our heart when it comes to comparing our lives to others? Imagine being able to walk around confident in who you are. Imagine how different that your day would be. I love you guys. I miss you. I can't wait to see you soon.